Hey, this is Greg Glush, your city manager. Happy New Year. Today's our special show. We try to have it annually. Julie Griffin, our wonderful town manager from Hanover, our wonderful Hanover, is here with me today, and we have hats. My hat may fall off, but it's been tried appropriate. And so we both agreed to wear hats. It's kind of horrible.
You put me up to it.
Well, we did. We had to take these hats off, in fact.
And beads. We have beads too,
We have
Greg.
beads,
Yeah,
beads,
yeah.
beads. What we are doing, and we have a horn, and we have, well, champagne, a.k.a. Apple cider, sparkling apple cider. I think I will take this off. It's going away. And that apple cider, well, we're teetotalers. And
Right,
so
right. So it's Martinelli's apple cider.
we're your managers. we can't get in the real stuff. You know, we don't do that. But so we do this, and we have done it before, and it's really great we do it again because we're looking forward to 2015.
Right.
You know, 2015 is, I think it's going to be a challenging year, but it pretends to have a remarkable year.
Yeah.
I think there's so many wonderful things in Hanover and Lebanon and in our area and Upper Valley as well going on. Boy, it's vibrant.
It is.
It's just
And busy.
Busy. So we were just going to chat for you today and just give our respective perspectives about, what we might be seeing, what we're thinking about, what we think cities are thinking about, and what our town's thinking about in New Hampshire. And of course, we're a border area, so
Right.
we have to consider our Vermont brothers and sisters. So that's anything's fair for us, and so we do this very informally. But we hope you enjoy the show today, and we hope you enjoy happy 2015. I was thinking about what lies ahead, and in terms of cities and towns. I'm just amazed how far behind our cities and towns are in infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I see so many people struggle and so many taxpayers and citizens support trying to do something about the infrastructure. But I see it's very hard to get ahead in dealing with this. I guess our analysis that we have on my part is that it's life cycle, most infrastructure is a fairly long period.
Right.
But a great deal of the infrastructure has been originally put into place in some time ago.
It's outlived its useful life.
Yeah, somebody will say, well, 30, 40, 50-year life cycling,
Right.
depending on construction, depending on the structure. And that definitely has come to, the chickens are come home to roost on the infrastructure. But it seems like we're part of a bigger, a huge picture in the United States and then a large picture in New Hampshire.
Right.
Of trying to do this and trying to figure out how to, we need it, but how can we pay for it?
Right.
And how do we prioritize it? And what we do in interim, can you really Band-Aid infrastructure?
Yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate, Greg, when I came to Hanover from Concord had managed its budget impacts in the last recession from 1990 to 94 by essentially stopping all funding of road repaving and really pulling money out of its infrastructure reinvestment effort. Hanover's been pretty good about and disciplined about reserving money every year in its capital improvement program for paving, for sidewalk replacements, for water and sewer main replacements, for bridge repairs. But we've got a lot of work still to do, and the challenging thing for taxpayers is that when you tackle an infrastructure project, it's expensive. Upgrading your wastewater plant, it's expensive. Upgrading your water plant, it's millions of dollars. Just repaving a road properly is expensive, particularly when oil prices were going up and the price of paving was doubling. I'll be curious to see if paving prices now come down as oil prices go down. Right? They should.
Should.
You want to bet? You want to bet something on that?
No, we won't gamble on that.
Yeah. So it's a big price tag, and when councilors and board selectmen are concerned about tax rate increases, we're expected to try and figure out how to deliver a budget with with minimal tax rate impacts, and very often those infrastructure projects are big ticket items. And so because they're big, it's easy to defer them, because by deferring them you eliminate a large category of expense that would otherwise impact your operating budget. And yet we shouldn't be deferring them, because, as my board chair is fond of saying, we're just kicking the can down the road, and the can will be bigger and more expensive down that road.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone could, from an analytical point of view, say that there's something on the horizon that would say the cost of construction of infrastructure is going to go down.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole experience that I've had, and I would probably you'd share it, was that I've never seen infrastructure delayed costs go down. I always see it go up.
Right.
And it's kind of puzzlement why is that occurring? And sometimes it's been related to energy costs. Some it's just been the nature of the kind of components of the infrastructure that you have to obtain, and that I know I had really had struggled one time, like with steel bars in a particular situation where I really had a shortage, and and so you find those the supply and demand in the marketplace is just it's on such a global level now that we're kind of the receiving end of of the consequences of all that.
Yep.
And so, like, we don't have do we have control? I mean, can we bid this and get competitive bids that would drive the price down?
Right.
Well, with the way the market is, most will bid about the same. I mean, you very seldom see a widespread in bids
differential
on infrastructure.
in prices.
They're usually pretty close together.
Right.
Because the cost factors are pretty well established by supply and demand.
Right. Well, and we saw, for example, for a while that steel prices were really going up, in large part because of the construction levels in Asia, particularly in China, which was driving steel prices up all over the place, which led to higher bids that we'd be receiving for infrastructure projects we're implementing that involve steel, bridge girders, for example. Paving prices nearly doubled as a result of oil price hikes. State of New Hampshire's paving budget, which was already tight, was further strained because they could pave far fewer road miles per dollar than they could prior, because paving prices nearly doubled. And those projects, those are sort of classic, fundamental projects that you really should be keeping up with on a regular basis, but they're so subject to price impacts. And what impacts Lebanon is going to impact Hanover, because we're seeing the same prices quoted to us by contractors.
Same one.
So it's a problem. I mean, we're seeing this clearly in New Hampshire, where they're getting way behind on their bridges and roadways because the state budget impacts have impacted the TOT budget, and paving prices almost doubled. So it's a double whammy. I'm not sure what the answer is, other than communities making a concerted decision to set aside money each year in reserve for various projects, and then sticking to those reserve contributions, which is tough to do, particularly when in lean times. And by the way, I'm going to take my hat off, because here I am sitting here with my hat on. You've taken your hat off, and people tuning in
I don't think
would be looking.
You can take your hat off, but
okay.
I don't think you really have a right to do that, because I only took the hat off because I have a size 8 head, and this is a size 6 hat. And it wouldn't stay up.
You need to put the other hat on then, Greg. I mean, I know you think.
Don't take your hat off. Take your hat off. Stay a while.
Sorry.
We got 20 minutes
I'm
left.
just picturing your viewers turning in going, who is that woman in the purple hat who looks like an absolute idiot?
Lucky you're not running for higher office. It'll be something this table will be forever used against you. But one of the things about being an ICMA person and a manager is that we are not political.
No.
And sometimes people say, well, you probably act kind of political, but we don't, because
we can't.
We can't. We got a cannons. In fact, you're sanctioned if you were political, and you will lose your certification as a manager.
Right.
And it has happened in the United States when somebody became political. And they felt righteous about a particular situation, but we park that at the door when we come in as managers. Our local leaders and on the local level, and then the elected leaders on there. I mean, and that's one thing I think that's terrific when people examine the nature of governance.
Right.
Is that when you have the persons who have to represent the people elected setting the policy, and setting the amount of money that may be available for you, and then you have the managers in a very neutral balanced way carry out the policies of those elected by the people,
Right.
then that is the ideal state to me.
That's
and
our-
I think
that's our
that's
role.
why it's kudos to all the managers that we have in New Hampshire, and it's just the profession that I'm so proud of. And you and I have been in this profession for a while between the two of us. And it's just something to be proud of. I feel really great about it. Oftentimes I see other such governance systems that aren't operating in that manner, and I see that is just so it's just so unaligned and so dysfunctional,
Yeah.
and so challenging for them to be in that systems, and it's making sausage, and they're doing the best they can. But
Yep.
I'm just glad we're in our roles and do what we do.
Well, it's easier for us, in many ways, it's easier to try and remain consistent.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily easy to implement consistency, but it's easy to try and remain steadfast to what you think is appropriate for your
Yeah.
community without getting caught up in the sort of political crossfire. But we have to work with folks from every party when they're elected, whether we're talking about local officials or state senators, state representatives, U.S. senators, U.S. congresspeople. They are elected, and we've got to make those relationships work with them. And so I think it's important that we remain politically neutral and not be perceived as biased on one side or the other.
Totally agree. And, in a lot of situations, I have no idea what a local government official that's elected is, what party affiliation they have. I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, historically, if you've been from the community and know the community, you probably know, but I just, I have like this thing about being, it's like blinders on about, because I don't see, when we're talking about our practicality of serving people with public safety and welfare
Right.
and health, there's no particular party type of infrastructure, a particular party type of public safety, or provide a recreational program. We got one for one party, one for the other.
No,
What the heck? What's going on there?
Municipal
no, it ain't
services.
gonna work. So that's nice. I'm glad we're in it. I know that. I was asking you earlier about you've taken a new position in the state.
I've just been appointed to the Board of Trustees of the New Hampshire Retirement System as the single municipal representative. There's one seat allotted on the New Hampshire Retirement System Board of Trustees board for somebody who represents municipalities, and so that's me. I replaced Guy Scaife, who was the town manager in Milford, who took a job now in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. So I was asked by the New Hampshire Municipal Association to become the new municipal representative on the State Retirement System Board. And so I will be attending my first official meeting next week. And
That'd be interesting.
looking forward to that new challenge.
I'm trying to learn. To be knowledgeable. I read the materials sometimes, and it seems so complicated and complex. And,
Yeah, the system has actually undergone a fairly significant amount of reform over the last 4 years as a result of some fairly fundamental changes in the system that the state legislature made. But just it is the system that provides retirement benefits for all municipal, county, and state employees within the state of New Hampshire. So, your police officers, your firefighters, your county staff, municipal and school employees, school teachers, for the most part, belong to the New Hampshire retirement system. So that is their pension system. And as with all state pension systems around the nation, it faces some challenges in terms of the extent to which its obligations are fully funded. And so the New Hampshire retirement system, as with others, is looking to grow its portfolio of assets so that it's more fully funded than it is currently. And I'm looking forward to really understanding the investment opportunities the retirement system has for its portfolio of assets. And now, as I become a trustee of the retirement system, my obligation is to from a fiduciary standpoint, to make sure we're making sound decisions on behalf of those assets that are there for retiring employees.
That'll be interesting. You have to come back and report to me of what's going on, so I could understand it better.
Yeah, should be an interesting assignment. Takes me to Concord once a month. It's always nice to sort of get to the mothership, as we say.
Yeah, get down.
Down in Concord.
I'm a poor traveler anymore, so I just travel to Hanover.
It's a big trip.
Lebanon, Hanover, that's my world. Well, sometimes I venture out into Enfield or Plainview or Canaan. So sometimes I venture across the White River, enjoy some of their new shops and stuff.
Right,
And,
right.
Hartford, I hang out over there for a little bit. But maybe I'm living in a bubble,
Yeah.
Upper Valley bubble.
It's a pretty nice bubble to be living in.
Not bad, not bad, not bad. So it's something I've tremendously enjoyed. We like to talk about technology a lot, and because I think that, in terms of our dealings, oftentimes I divide the thing that we try to do is that we got to deal with this infrastructure. 'Cause
Right.
that's the big elephant in the room. It's huge. I have pictures of this great big elephant in a room. And
Right.
all kind of, that's what it is. And then, but the tools of trying to tackle our world is, technology goes back to days. I remember when starting that, you type, a hand typing writer,
yes.
Type.
Yeah.
And,
Carbon paper.
Carbon paper, white out.
Right.
It's like, now we're moving information awful fast and awful, in high quantities.
Right.
Incredible. And I know you've been very active, taking a leadership role in the Fast Roads program to try to bring the outstate or areas that are not
underserved.
Bring service so everyone has parity and
Right.
equity and. I know that there's issues in that and trying to roll that out. It's not it seemed like that would be just like a slam dunker that they would just roll out, but
Fascinating project. It's been a long time coming. There are incredible obstacles, both political and financial, and within the telecom industry, to municipal deployment of high-speed internet services. Incredible obstacles. I understood them, but I didn't fully appreciate them until we got immersed in this New Hampshire Fast Roads project. The project is now complete, thanks to funds through the federal government that were provided as part of President Obama's effort to do economic stimulus post the Great Recession. We now have a fiber backbone that runs all the way from Orford down to Keene and then out to Rindge, out to New London. We have 4 internet service providers providing internet service on that network. Enfield now has last mile service and Rindge has last mile service.
that's nice.
And we're in the process now, Greg, of trying to get Fast Roads to a revenue positive business as opposed to a business that's still hoping to attract enough revenue to stay operating,
Right.
and then to figure out how to finance build out, because what's really behind a Fast Roads project is to leverage that backbone so that we can start building out into the communities the backbone runs through and to meet the demand. To give you an example of what competition does with a high-speed fiber network like that, we, the town of Hanover, our municipal buildings, previously purchased internet service, 20 megabits that was essentially $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month. We're now purchasing almost 3 times that amount of bandwidth for 30% of the cost, because there's competition now on this fiber network with 4 ISPs providing service. Everybody's sort of sharpened their pencil, and it's driving the price down. So not only do we save money, but we get much more robust bandwidth in the process. And we're all about trying to figure out how we can now move that system to outlying areas, because western and southwestern New Hampshire, the same is true of northern New Hampshire, and central New Hampshire, north of the Lakes region, a lot of internet-starved parts of the state.
Yeah, and of course, and taking testimony from people before Lebanon about trying to get service out to their areas. It's been kind of painful to listen to some of the issues that people think they should be able to take for granted.
Sure.
Especially these days. A lot of the educational things for the children are really going online. They're going with technology. It's amazing what's happening in college. People. And everything's getting online, and so even if you go to actual classes, you have this online component of your educational experience. And if you don't have internet, then you're
hampered.
You're very hampered.
Yeah.
And then if you were an entrepreneurial person that wanted to do entrepreneurial approaches from your home, if you don't have it, how are you going to achieve it?
Right.
We have one thing nice, and the libraries in Lebanon have been nice about providing computer access for people so they can get online and
Right,
things like that.
right.
But that's not a home entrepreneurial business. That's not That's not children or your children trying to study and get online to hear an
Right.
assignment from a teacher. And just doing the things people do with the internet's access information and knowledge. And so I'm so glad I'm glad you're working on this.
It's been a fun project.
It's great.
Challenging
project.
but fascinating, and the sky's the limit in terms of what's possible.
Yeah,
It just
yeah,
takes
yeah.
money.
Yeah, it's always the money is it takes money. And
Whether it's infrastructure,
funny you can't do anything on the money.
fiber infrastructure or bridge infrastructure.
It's all gonna have a price tag to it. I think another one we wanted to venture into is used to be I'd just say town gown, but now I've come here and now I've added a further slash mark.
Right.
And I put in medical center.
Right.
Because when we have a footprint as big as Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center, in sandwiched between Hanover and Lebanon, it's in Lebanon, but it's sandwiched right between us.
Right.
I mean, basically the seeds came from the Dartmouth College, and then that all got involved. It's an incredible experience to actually see and better understand what the campus is, Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center, and all the various sundry things they're doing there, and the various new buildings that have already been built, some that are contemplated.
Right.
And
Right.
the
A lot going
healthcare.
on.
I call them healthcare clusters, and then I really enjoy working with and trying to figure this out, and then Alice Peck Day. He has a community hospital here in Lebanon. I even met with one of their officials today and had a good discussion about they're kind of ramping up some possible plans to present to everyone.
Right.
And so the healthcare situation makes the medical center seem to be an important part of it. Dartmouth College owns a lot of property in Lebanon.
Right.
Of course, they're really in Hanover, and you're on a daily, regular, everyday basis.
Everyday basis.
You and
Working
your
with them.
relations are going. And so,
Yep.
So you really have that direct deal, and we have this kind of indirect thing going because with everything they do, we'll hear, we'll
Right.
feel the footprint or we'll hear the sound of
Right.
what is going to be occurring as they have it. They're so world class oriented, going. It's rather fascinating
And when you think about it, we've really got two very big downtown institutions in our region with Dartmouth-Hitchcock and Dartmouth College, and they are very much a part of our local economic climate, clearly part of our educational climate. They have the resources to do things that municipalities may not have, so looking for ways to partner with them when something's in the best interests of both the municipality and the institution is really helpful. It's all about trying to sort of dovetail what they have in mind with what we have in mind and make sure we can figure out how that works to our mutual advantage and to the advantage of our residents is what we're all about.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful to be working in a community with an institution like Dartmouth, and the same is true for DHMC. I mean, we may grumble about them, they may grumble about us.
Yeah,
we tend to get in each other's way on occasion, but we're very fortunate to have two pretty stable employers in this region that are the two premier employers in the region that have been relatively more recession-proof than your average employers, not completely, but relatively more recession-proof, that have sort of kept our employment rates low and kept our economies vital. And for us, it's all about trying to keep up with them and make sure that we don't get stepped on in the process, and that we're mindful of the other sort of competing needs of the community that we need to, acquaint them with.
And as the bodies involved, the town of Hanover and city of Lebanon and Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center and Dartmouth College, I think everyone has to find, at some point, there's a mutual interest, mutuality among us about the situation of what we are, because it's very holistic in terms of our setting. I mean, it is, when somebody talks about, they'll say about, well, your important things are the people in a community and what the community has for tools and resource infrastructure. And then what's the community's place?
Right.
What is the place? What's the nature of the place? What's the features of the place? you know, and look at a wonderful place like Hanover and Lebanon, and the area. I mean, there's just a wealth of great aspects of it.
Right.
But there's some missing pieces of it. And that when you build a wonderful institution of any sort, you really have to take in consideration the whole picture and looking at the place the institution has. So you have the finest, and I've seen it many times in the United States in my travels and my journeys, is I've seen places that have a magnificent facility surrounded by insufficient place supporting factors.
Right, right.
And so what happens with the institution is struggles, and with the grumbling we talked about
Begins,
right. and it grumbles turn to rumbles,
right.
and it gets more adversarial sometimes, and certainly is in the best interest of all.
Yeah.
And so some of the deficiencies hurt the institutions, and they're fundamentally built around their people.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't have the people, like if the city doesn't have the people,
right.
I mean, there's nothing to do what we need to do. We have to have the right people, and they have spouses, and they have families, and they have needs,
right.
and they have expectations of what they appreciate in a place.
Right.
Some job recruiters now say very clearly that the element that now determined whether you make a job selection in a competitive market is place.
Right.
It's not the job, it's not the salary,
right.
it's the place.
And the quality of that place, the quality of life in that place.
Quality of it, you know, what is available, or the schools that are available, the infrastructure is available. I mean, if you come into a place and the places, it has really access problems for transportation systems, and really doesn't have public transit, and doesn't have any place to go walk, or if you're,
yeah.
the days of, there's walking, biking, all the various other types of activities that are going on. My son, my youngest, was, he came home from California. He stayed about 3 days, and he went to New York City and left me.
he needed
more
activity.
Had to go, he's just that kind of. And I asked him, what did you do in New York City on holidays? He said, well, he has some close friends that he went to college with, and they kind of have a pack of 4 or 5. And I said, because they usually go to music clubs and hear music. He said, well, no, we went boxing. I said, boxing? What? I mean, my son's 140 pounds. He's a musician.
Yeah.
And he writes music, and he's a writer, and he's kind of Mr. Creativity. And I didn't think he's a boxer. I said, what? Well, because it was a form of aerobic exercise,
right?
And it was fun. And his friends and him went and took it for X amount of dollars for an hour. They would
boxing lessons.
Boxing lessons, and it was really it was transformative into exercises.
Right.
And they did it. And it was now if we and he's 26.
Right.
So how many 26-year-olds, 25-year-olds that we have in here, maybe young professionals, or just, whether they're going to stay here after grad school, or they're going to or they're going to continue here to be a doctor.
Right.
And if that's the kind of amenity they're expecting, which is beyond my comprehension.
Right, right.
But we don't have. I don't know of that we have like instantaneous boxing lessons that you could take. I'm sure there's boxers and coaches and stuff like that in gyms, but I don't.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting quandary. So I think that means that as the guy says, that between work life and home life, there's the in-between life, and that have a decent place, you have to have the in-between life for the next generation that we have now. Or I don't know, I've lost track of the names, whether the millennials or whatever. There's
the latest name for this generation.
But they're changing, and they have to have Wi-Fi and whatever the next thing. And they have iPhones that are equivalent to what is the iMac or computer that is on my station, my old-fashioned, I say. Yeah. So, well, in the last 3 minutes, I think we want to talk, and maybe I was going to mention we were talking a little bit about solid waste, but maybe we can do that in the context of both our perspectives about the 2015 issues that will be faced. And so, from your and maybe we tag team back and forth a little bit about what you're kind of like David Letterman said, top 10. I don't think we get a 10 in 3 minutes, but the kind of top issues that Hanover is going to have to.
We
phase?
have, they're all interesting issues. We're working on constructing a multi-use path on Lebanon Street that will connect to Buck Road on Route 120, right across from our Public Works facility, to make it easier for bicyclists and pedestrians to get from the Medical Center complex and Buck Road and Argyle Hill housing into downtown Hanover. We're working on the potential acquisition of a second piece of property so that we can add a gymnasium addition onto our community center. We've got a major water infrastructure project that we're contemplating, in part to upgrade some of our secondary water lines and our fire hydrant system. And in addition, we're gearing up because Dartmouth is poised to begin doing significantly more construction than they have over the last 4 years. And when Dartmouth is busy building, we're very busy supporting that building on the plan review and inspection side, on the planning board and the zoning board side. So as Dartmouth expands, we have to sort of get geared up to serve the needs of that institution and keep everybody else in town happy at the same time.
Oh, wow.
I think 2015 and 2016 will be the beginning of another fairly substantial construction boom on the college's part as they look at both improving the quality of campus life and also some major improvements to their Hopkins Center and the Hood Museum of Art, expansion of the Thayer School of Engineering, and potential expansion of the Tuck School of Management.
Wow, that's incredible, that kind of vibrancy. On Lebanon's part, there's many things. We had the big one has been the ongoing completion of the CSO separation water sewer projects.
Yep.
And we'll complete CSO 9 this summer.
That's 9 construction cycles we're talking about.
And we're initiating CSO 10. That's both those are in the West Lebanon area.
Yeah.
And we're planning for CSO 11, so the design plan will be so there's 3 in different stages that'll be done. We're going to complete the work on Slayton Hill, where it was caused much damage, and thanks to Hanover's help, we helped recover with our good public works crew from Hanover, joining our good public works crew from Lebanon, and all our various emergency management sponsors, the fire departments, all those wonderful people, and all the volunteers, Red Cross, etc. So we're going to fix that. So that's going to be done this summer, and Dulac Street is going to be done and hopefully be completed by the fall, which was the street at the bottom of that mess.
Right, Slayton Hill.
And it came down. Of course, they were the ones at the bottom of the hill.
Received all that stuff.
And all that stuff, and it was so hard on those people, but they had perseverance and resiliency, and they keep on doing what they're doing, which would be good residents of a street. So that's cool. We are going to be tackling the issue of downtown Lebanon with the deficiencies in the tunnel that was underneath the
Do you know, I never knew that tunnel was there until I read about the issues with that.
I
never knew.
Saw it, and I never recognized that it was an issue, and then it started, it was like things started coming, and then
showing up in the pavement above.
And the reports, and before you know it, we're really escalated. And so the city has decided that instead of just, are we going to just fill it in or just, fix it, we're going to look at the alternatives for the downtown Lebanon area around that site. So it's the footprint for where it's at and surrounding, and see if there's, what alternatives are there. I mean, the minimalist alternative where there's not much change except some correction. Of course, the tunnel has to be shut
reinforced
down or reinforced. There's a lot of money involved even doing those minimus, very lot of money. Or do we expand it and start changing alignments and the paving lot and the streets? Yeah. So that's a real, that could become a game changer. It could grow, it'd be multi-stage, so it would be certainly more than just, it's not going to happen. We're going to do the alternative on it. And of course, as we've been trying to do, is our theme is citizen engagement. Right. Try to get every possible level we can citizens to engage in the discussion about this situation. Right. We're launching the airport master plan. It's been approved by the City Council, and so I'm currently preparing to send a notice to proceed to the firm that will be assisting, working with our team. So it's a collaborative team between the consulting team, and they have a subcontractor that has specialties and has really made a living out of providing community facilitation and communication for aviation on airports. So that's kind of their niche. And so those are fascinating. Both are very fascinating projects on top of the regular CSO.
Right.
So it's interesting. We'll get to know the new superintendent of schools in Lebanon. She and I agreed to.
And
meet.
I know Joanne from Hanover, great person.
So
Yep.
you already know her,
Yep.
and I'm looking forward to know her more.
Yeah.
And so school-city partnering is an important thing, and try to figure that out. And we're helping support the new middle school. There's still infrastructure issues with regards to sidewalks and crosswalks, and well, hopefully you'll get that Highway 10 crosswalk. I think a lot stages have been completed, and hopefully they'll launch the work.
That's great.
To put that walk appropriately where it is on Highway 10.
Yeah, at Station Field. Yeah.
So I'm glad about that, because I've been hopeful of that.
Yeah.
And so that's really, those are neat things. We continue to work on the Muskoma Greenway to try to connect the two villages. Our village thing's really cool. The idea of the villages.
Oh, it's fabulous.
And to have thought. It's historic. It's got basis in fact. People are self-selecting what they are. And, and try to make life a little easier on people than and try to get access to the kind of basics, so you don't have to go traveling around unless you choose to do so. Right. But you can try to access what you need.
What you need in your village. So
those are all really wonderful things. So I think that's really exciting to look at that. I think our police is experiencing more rates of crime in some of the areas. Some of it was related to heroin. It's so strange, drug cultures and things like that. And,
I know.
And we're right off that interstate. That's like a pipeline.
An intersection of two interstates. I think
two interstates. And so our police are going to be plenty busy trying to deal with that. And so that's really fascinating. Solid waste, we'll be interested to watch the developments of solid waste. We're putting in a new flame, the big new flame.
I read about it in the Valley News.
It is intended to eliminate the odor,
which is fabulous.
Eliminate the stinkiness, which was pretty prevalent the last few days out at places like Home Depot, or I was out there trying to find some de-icer.
and it was odiferous, right?
It was odif, and it was not nice. And so it's not like something nobody likes that. And so hopefully the flame will
burn that off.
Burn that off, and then we can proceed to maybe look at energy utilization of methane, and that's a longer term. The marketplaces seems to be fluctuating around on that. So we'll have to test the waters on that sort of situation. And I guess you're engaged in some. I know you've been real supportive and just dialoguing with the Vermont people
on solid waste issues. Looking at the potential for funding a regional household hazardous waste drop-off facility that would be available to residents in the region a couple of times a month rather than just a couple of times a year. I'm looking at a cooperative project with the town of Hartford and the town of Norwich that might make that possible with some help from George Murray, your very capable landfill solid waste manager. We're actually scheduling a couple of composting field trips to take a look at some regional composting facilities that are very active on the Vermont side, with an eye toward the possibility of creating a regional composting facility. So these groups have been getting together for the last year or so, both around the Regional Planning Commission and independently, to just think about what we might do together that would be a service enhancement for our citizens while minimizing the cost. Trying to be better stewards of our solid waste, and that sounds great. Better stewards of our landfill.
It is such an important thing for everyone that we have ability to, properly deal with the waste. Because it's a very impactful thing on our environment, on our people, on our persons, and so it's good to see what we can do to basically eliminate the utilization first of all, and reduce it and recycle it and reuse it. See what and composting is a wonderful thing. So
absolutely.
I'll be anxious to watch the developments on the composting effort. So we'll see where that leads us. Well, I think we're kind of getting toward the close, and first, I want to thank you for wearing the hat.
Thank you. I'll put it back on here.
I apologize. The hats are not as cool. And I did my best to find cool hats, but within this Lebanon city budget, actually I bought these myself, within the Lewis Clan budget. This is the best I could do.
Very impressive.
Very impressive hats, huh? But the horns are the best thing.
Okay,
the horns
so
are
we're
the best
doing
thing.
this, Greg?
So what we're going to do, I think we're going to have some toasting.
Yep.
And then we're going to blow the horn, and then we're going to say, here comes the new year, and 2015 is on its way. So here's to Hanover.
And here's to Lebanon.
And here's to all the members of the community of the Upper Valley. And we wish you absolutely the best Happy New Year ever.
Happy 2015.
And it's a glorious place that I'm lucky enough to live in. And it's our two communities are just special places. So.
They are.
And they truly are. So here's to a Happy New Year.
Same to you, Greg.
Now, these horns are wonderful. I had my son, the musician, they tuned them up before I came over here. So here we go. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Here we go.